wind was silent, but the trees were awake. They stood still, not swaying, not bending, simply listening, as if they sensed something the eyes couldn't yet see. The forest has its own language, and tonight it whispered in unease. In the distance, the field waited open, quiet, and innocent, but fields do not know what stalks them, and tonight, the ground beneath it would shake. Wild boars move like ghosts, heavy yet silent, brutal yet patient. They do not warn you. They do not stumble. They arrive as if summoned by the night itself. No sound, no trail, just presence. You feel them before you see them, a subtle change. In the air, a sharp breath in the brush, the hush that hangs before a storm breaks. That's how you know. Instinct warns you long before your eyes catch the outline. We had guarded this land for weeks, watching, recording, waiting, reading patterns. In the soil, scat, and broken branches. The signs were there. Wallows in the mud, trees scarred by tusks, soil turned like it had been plowed by hands of iron. But signs are not the same as the moment. Signs don't prepare you for the soundless arrival of power in the dark. They don't. Steal your pulse for what it feels like when the blackness moves against itself. The moment came slowly, as if the night itself were holding its breath. A silhouette shifted at the tree line, just at the edge where darkness becomes shadow, then another, then more. They didn't creep or stumble. They flowed, coordinated, purposeful. These weren't wanderers. They weren't searching. They knew. The clearing lit up not with light, but with certainty. The sound was faint but unmistakable. The rhythm of hooves pressing dry earth, a pulse, a heartbeat, closer, closer. The stillness cracked like glass and instinct took over. There was no panic, no hesitation, no wasted thought, just action. Every movement mattered. Every breath counted. In the dark, there is no room for doubt. You don't chase. You wait. You don't speak. You listen. One passed just feet away, unaware of how close it was to the line. Another followed, slower, cautious, its head twitching, ears tuned for danger, but too late. The tree line broke with their push, not clumsy or desperate, but deliberate. They had done this before. This was a raid, not a mistake. The field answered, not in fear but with fire. The night no longer belonged to them. For every step they gained, they lost ground. For every shadow they cast, we answered with precision. The echo wasn't chaos. It was a message. This land has defenders. The silence they broke, we rebuilt it piece by piece, through discipline and control. The chaos they brought met the order we carried, and when it ended, the air was different. wind returned. The trees swayed again, almost relieved. The ground cooled beneath our boots. The forest exhaled. But nights like this never truly leave you. They carve themselves into memory, not because of fear. Fear is fleeting, but because of how close it came. You carry the weight of it, the knowledge of it. They'll return. They always do. Because hunger doesn't rest. Because instinct doesn't forget. And when they come again, we'll be waiting, just as patient, just as silent. People think of wild boars as just animals, feral pigs roaming aimlessly, that they don't understand. These creatures are architects of ruin. They adapt, they endure, they test the edges of human resolve. A single sounder can tear through fields in hours, undoing months of work, turning crops into wasteland. They don't just feed, they conquer, rooting, trampling, digging, spreading destruction as naturally as breathing. And yet there's something ancient in them, something that makes the hairs on your neck rise when they're near. Predators hunt with hunger, but boars move with something more, a kind of memory written into their bones. They've been hunted for centuries by kings, farmers, and soldiers, and still, they thrive still. They find ways back into the shadows. That's why nights like this matter. It isn't just about protecting land or crops or livelihood, it's about sending a message. Across centuries of struggle, this ground is not yours to take. When you face them, there's no margin for error. They charge with speed that defies their weight. They fight with tusks sharpened by earth and instinct. They endure pain most creatures cannot. Even wounded, they lunge. Even cornered, they strike. To underestimate them is to invite disaster. But tonight, the balance tipped, not in their favor, but in ours. Precision, patience, control. These are the only weapons stronger than brute force. And as the night settled once more into silence, I realized something. The battle is never over. The field may rest, the trees may whisper again, but somewhere in the dark, they're regrouping, waiting, planning. Because wild boars never truly retreat. They test, they probe, and then, when the time feels right, they come again. And so will we. The wind was silent, but the trees were awake.
If you'll enjoy this video, please like and subscribe my channel for more information.